So Sutra 116. When there is non-thirst for even the gunas, that's the constituents of nature, due to the realization of the Purusha, which is the true self, there is supreme non-attachment. And yesterday we talked a lot about this, and there's a lot to say and dig into, but today we're gonna focus on the gunas. Is Renata here? Yeah. So this is the working with the gunas. The mind's psychological qualities are highly unstable and can quickly fluctuate between the different gunas. The predominant guna of the mind acts as a lens that affects our perceptions and perspective of the world around us. Thus, if the mind is in rajas, it will experience world events as chaotic, confusing, and demanding, and it will then have a strong tendency to continue to react to events in a rajasic way. Therefore, for yogis to make progress along the path, we must practice self-observation and discernment to witness, and not react to the activities of the gunas. We must also have the inner strength and willpower to consciously shift our thoughts and actions away from tamas and rajas towards sattvic balance and purpose. So,
where are you reading from?
Oh, that's not from. I can see if
that's okay. No, that's okay.
I can email it to everyone afterwards.
No, thank you. It's okay.
So yeah, it's not from the Yoga Sutras. I just found a specific something that talks about the gunas, and that also goes into Maya, which is illusion. So the being able to, we talk about being the seer in yoga. To be able to watch. I love that example of watching the clouds in the sky and not getting dragged, not hopping on the cloud and getting dragged by it. So as thoughts arise, right? Like right now, everything that we're going through, if we just kept watching TV and watching the news, it would be very, very easy, at least for me, for the mind to become completely and absolutely negative and just sink in a hole. And instead, making the choice to get up and meditate instead. Get up and go for a walk. Get up and go on my mat and move and acknowledge all this going on in my head. And kind of deciphering, this thought is not good. Maybe it's valid to like be careful with certain things, but there's no point in getting stuck there because it's just going to drag me down. And trying to find the opposite, which would be the sattvic thought, because you're going the opposite from the negative, and constantly trying to move that way. But the sutra that we read says that once we achieve supreme non-attachment, we wouldn't even have to deal with this stuff. So I'll just keep working on maybe in 10,000 lifetimes getting there. Because I know I'm nowhere close. But being aware, like having that awareness and being aware of these feelings, these thoughts, and all this stuff is such a wonderful tool, right? And it says how, as yogis, where is it? We must also have the inner strength and willpower to consciously shift our thoughts and actions. So the practice, to me, the practice of getting up, all of us, what we've been doing, getting up and putting on your laptop or your phone and showing up for this meditation, that's willpower, that's inner strength. I'm sure like a lot of us have had many mornings where you just like, I just want to stay here and just pull the blanket over my head and pretend nothing is happening and just stay in and sleep. but instead we've been getting up and the practice of discipline and creating this the sitting and creating this discipline to sit and acknowledge what comes up and not get completely dragged away with it. Or if you do, you're able to come back. Maybe you're using breath work, maybe you're using a mantra. Anyone has anything else to? Renata, want to play with the gunas?
So you were, because I came a little late, I was doing my tea. So you were talking about non-attachment.
So I read, basically, I just read the sutra from yesterday again. And then I read this part about the gunas, which is not from the Yoga Sutra. I just pulled it up from somewhere else. And I can't remember.
Did you read the 16 or 17? It sounds like you read the 16.
Are we at 17?
Oh, okay.
No, we're doing 16 again so that we can talk about the gunas.
Oh, I see. So we went back one. Is that
just
it?
stayed with the same one from yesterday.
That was 17. 17.
Oh, that was 17.
All right.
Samadhi is accompanied by reasoning, reflecting, rejoicing, and pure I-am-ness. You're right. Okay. I went back to 16. I don't know why I went back.
It's okay. It's okay because that was valid, right? Like
they overlap.
They all lead to each other. The next lead to each other, and they all weave through because that's why they call sutras. So
sutras, by the way, I don't know if you guys are aware. Sutra means a thread.
To
and
stitch.
It's a stitch.
Like a stitch.
Yep.
It means a stitch. So it's a stitch on the fabric of life. So every stitch counts and every stitch weaves in through the other and the next and the next and the next. So yesterday we were I don't know. Go ahead, Micheline. I don't want to take over it.
No, but that's it. Yesterday we talked about how we'll explore the gunas more. So I read this. I found this part interesting from this read that I was reading last night about how the mind's psychological qualities are highly unstable and can quickly fluctuate. And the gunas are in everything. They're in our mind. They're in the things we eat. They're in the things we touch. So making the practice of becoming more sattvic. Adriana, yesterday was, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, you were talking about meat. Meat is rajas, so meat weighs you down. The green foods, juicing, being more healthy. So we make these choices, right? But in reality, if you grow up eating meat and potatoes every day, and they tell you that's what's good for you, right, in your head. So being more open and exploring and really feeling what makes you feel good. Everybody is different too. I could, like in the winter time, because of my constitution, or in the fall rather, if I tried to eat salads are good for you, but I would be a complete mess because I need cooked, heavy soups with roots. Adriana got kicked out. And so I think it is also a part of really exploring ourselves and really figuring out what works with each and everyone individually. Not just because what's good for me is good for everyone else.
So I think what Micheline is trying to say is like this. Rajas means movement. Like let's think about like thoughts. She was thinking about thoughts like clouds that pass by. Let's take that and go through the 3 stages. So if I'm rajasic, that means that I'm paying attention to every thought and I'm clinging to it. Have you ever met a friend, or have you ever had a friend that calls you and it's like, "Pa, pa, 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 pa," and the next, and the next, and the next, and they talk about this, and they talk about that. Maybe you should go to Colombia. Maybe you should buy this thing. And they reject. They just like thinking about everything, and they're not filtering. They're not taking a moment to stop. And when you try to say a word, they already have another thing to say. So basically the conversation with this Rajasic person is like, okay, bye. Because they go like, oh, I gotta go, I got another class, another call. They didn't even ask how you're doing. Do you know people like this? Have you ever had the pleasure, right? Because it's like when people are very Rajasic. And I've been there, I'm telling you, I've been there. I believe every thought, and I had to, go through every thought in my head and go on. A person who is sattvic, it's like what Micheline said. It's like, oh, I have this thought. Let me think about it. Is this something that I should engage with and put energy to? Nah, it's just like another one of those. Oh, but this one is valid. I need to really organize my life because I need to pay this bill or whatever it is, or I need to travel, or I need to speak to my son more, or whatever is the thought. Now, the tamas is when you like, should I do this? Nah, I'll go back to take a nap. And then you wake up and you have that inertia, that avoidance. So that's 3 part of our constitution. And we always like a little more from one side to the next. And the goal of practice is to become more sattvic. And not that one is wrong or one is right, like what Micheline was saying, is like you have to see what's best for you. A person who is always doing something, perhaps not checking their email, is a sattvic thing to do. You know what I mean? A person who's always on top of something, maybe taking a nap in the afternoon is a thing to do. A person who's always sluggish and slow, maybe just making a task of reading all the emails, answering everybody, and going to the gym and whatever, maybe that's the sattvic way. So it doesn't have a formula for everybody. It's more noticing what is your constitution. Think about this like an apple. A pristine apple off of the tree. That's sattvic. So the apple is ripe. It's not a perfect apple. Okay. And then Rajas is maybe somebody who's having company home and goes to the supermarket and buys a bunch of apples and make applesauce and make apple tart and makes apple pie and makes all kinds of apple desserts and is there. That's more like a Rajas, all different kinds of apples. And maybe I'm going to describe tamas as a person who grabs the apple and cuts the apple and puts lots of sugar and cream and makes a super like thick sauce and then leaves in the refrigerator, and it kind of spoils because nobody eats it. The apple is the essence of everybody, and what we do with it depends on how we are approaching life. In a Rajasic way, in a more balanced way, or in a very sluggish way. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that example kind of make sense for you guys? So that's the 3 gunas.
Can I say something?
Please.
So it's just an overall with the sutras, something that's just coming up because I'm also reading another challenging book, and I've read the sutras and I've taken my 200, but just for in case this resonates with anyone, when I read this sutra book and I took my 200 hour, Jafar reminds us we have to start small. So if you're hearing this for the first time and you're like, what the heck are people talking about?
Yeah.
Don't think like that this is going to be an immediate shift and then by the end of the day today you're going to recognize these 3 gunas. I was just reading Jafar's translation in his journal, in his sutra journal, and he says that these three gunas are first mentioned in this sutra, and it's kind of expected that we know what he means. And so if these three gunas are seeming a little confusing, even now to me when I've studied this, that it's start small. You don't have to change your whole diet. You don't have to change everything. Maybe you just notice one thing today. One thing, a song, a food, an activity, a thought, a yoga pose. And you just practice one thing every day throughout the whole year. And the other book I'm reading, the 14 Lessons book, the author often writes, we're going to assume you already understand this topic. We're going to assume you already understand this topic. Or if you don't, just know we're just touching upon it briefly. And so what I like about the sutras is that it forces me to continue my self-study. That if the gunas is something I want to learn more about, like how Micheline did, you go and look for more information on it, or you ask the teachers, where can I find this more information? And it doesn't just have to be for the gunas, it could be for any topic that's coming up throughout the sutras. I just don't want this to like overwhelm anybody that, oh my God, I'm not a good yogi person because I'm not recognizing a sattvic
Absolutely.
life.
Thanks for saying that, Pam. You know, the sutra is almost like a Bible. There's no way that you are going to, you know, interpret and assimilate and understand the depth. And, you know, the other thing is like what Pam was saying, even though some of us have been studying this in a long time, there's always a new twist about the sutra. Like, oh my God, I never thought about that. Yeah. So it's not a book that you're going to finish and be done with. When you know, need, you can open up and read one, and yeah, it's voila, it's right there, brand new for you again.
And
So
we're not looking to get rid of Rajas and Tamas. We need those in our lives. They're not good and bad. Like, you're not looking to live a fully sattvic life. You just need to learn. It's just about learning, like how yoga just keeps pulling us to the present. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
And yeah, I don't want anyone to just be like, what? I can't do this, and walk away. We won't see anyone in the meeting tomorrow.
For sure.
So this reminds me of the Ayurvedic food thing, diet and exercise thing, like the three different components, and you identify your particular type.
The doshas.
Yeah. So yes, it reminds me of that. Is it related?
No, I think the gunas and the doshas are separate. Amanda, you can talk more about Ayurveda and the relationship between gunas and doshas.
Yeah, they're related. Was everybody able to enter the meeting easily with the link?
Yeah. Oh no, I used the website.
No, I had an oops. It said oops. Sorry, I couldn't.
Yeah, it was.
Yesterday
I
I
used
put it,
it.
Amanda.
Okay, I'll figure it out. Yeah, so Ayurveda and the doshas is it's related. You can have sattvic vata, you can have rajasic vata, you can have tamasic vata, and then the list goes on for each dosha. There are all these different combinations. Generally in Ayurveda, it depends on like what portion of life you're in. Like in the Vedas, they talk about the different phases of life. Like you can be you're supposed to be a brahmachari until the age of 18, where it means you're just involved in study. And then you can either continue to be a brahmachari and like go to ashram and just continue to study, or you can become a grihasta and create a family and, you know, the noble task of a child and whatnot. So they say for the grihasta that you should be eating, it's something like 85-90% sattvic, but then you're also going to need some rajasic foods to keep you going, because it's a very active lifestyle, having kids and running around and having a job and all that. And then and then a small portion of tamasic as well. But if you're a brahmachari, you should be eating 100% sattvic, is what they say. So yeah, it's definitely related, but as any practitioner of yoga should be aiming for mostly sattvic foods. And
The
we,
relationship, Amanda, isn't it in everything in life, or there's a different relationship with Ayurveda?
what do you mean? Sorry, I just tuned in.
It's okay. I'm sorry to put you in the hot seat. So you were talking about like every constitution, every doshan has its tamasic aspect and rajasic aspect and sattvic aspect. Isn't that with everything in life, like anything and everything, we
Yeah.
can notice that there is a fast pace, there is a middle ground, and there is a, or in Ayurveda, there is I'm not sure how I can articulate this, a closer relationship between, because Ayurveda is not just foods, it's also um, herbs and practices. And
Yeah.
so does it intertwine more than other things in life with the gunas?
Well, Ayurveda is based on Sankhya philosophy, so they're in essence the same exact thing of what we're learning.
Okay.
Ayurveda just
So
approaches it in like the world of matter. Like they
body.
say Ayurveda is the science of matter and yoga is the science of spirit. So when you look at the two combined, it's like, how are they interacting? So yes, you're absolutely right. Like there are herbs that are considered in Ayurveda sattvic, or herbs that are considered rajasic, herbs that are considered tamasic. So yeah, you can delineate anything like behaviors, food, environments, herbs, oils, spices, like the list goes on and on and on. And it's an interesting study because we make these assumptions all the time, especially in our world where it's like people are trying to be healthy, so they're starting to get into herbs. But like a lot of naturopathic doctors feel like, oh, well, all herbs fit all people because this herb does this thing and it's good for all people. But Ayurveda is so ancient and so there's so much wisdom. They're like, no, actually, like this herb is going to be really good for this person, but it's going to make this other person sick. You should use this other herb. Or like if you're a kapha person with more earth, you can take on more rajasic things and still be okay. Versus like if you're a pitta person, you need a more calming, more sattvic,
Make
more
sure.
calming atmosphere. If that
Make
makes
sure.
I may answer your question.
Yeah, we try not to overwhelm everybody with the just, with the gunas, because what Pam was saying is like, for someone who have not done the teacher training or have become familiar with terms like this could be like, whew, 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 like what is this? But I think what a good point that Amanda brought up is like this: if you're going through college, balance for you is going to look different than if you're going through retirement, right? The amount of time you're going to put in studying or in social events or whatever that in the college you do, you're not going to be doing when you're retiring. So this idea of balance really is determined by your own nature, but also by times or phases of your life, right? When you retire, you should looking for, you could be looking for things to move your body, or a great reading, or more companion, or maybe like volunteer work or something like that, because you have a lot of time. When you're going through college, it's a lot of alcohol, it's a lot of studying, it's a lot of rajasic things that you have to do in order to go through college. And so it's different in different stages of our life. But it's important for you to know that rajasic means movement, doing things, or engaging, or thinking, or anything that has to do with movement, energetically, physically, manifestation. Sattvic, it's more what we call like a balanced state. So anything that at that moment, in that stage in your life, you can feel that brings you a sense of balance. And tamas, which is a more slow pace, less movement, less engagement, less manifestation.
The Bhaktis talk about it in a very applicable way too. They say that like emotionally you can relate to these things. So if you're in the mode of peace, unconditional love, a sense of service, of wanting to serve others and love others, that's sattva. A sense of really good health, a sense of well-being is sattva. If you're in a state of rajas, they say it's the mode of passion. Anger, jealousy, a sense of trying to control others. And it's kind of cool because it's if you see these emotions rising up in you, you know, like, okay, I've taken in a lot of rajastic things in my environment and my mind-body vehicle is starting to become rajastic. I need to put more sattva in so my mind-body vehicle can become sattva. Like meditation is very sattvic. The different hours of the day even have these gunas. Like when you wake early to do your meditation practice, there's an energy of sattva, right? Like some people only experience it when they go out at night really late and they're like out until 4 o'clock in the morning and nobody's on the street and the birds aren't chirping yet. And there's this feeling of just, wow, just peace, calm energy. Like that's a sattvic hour. That's when we're supposed to be waking up to meditate. And then tamas, they say, is in the mode of ignorance. Bless you. So anything that's like pulling you into illusion, like being on heavy drugs, lots of alcohol, being in very like a heavy, depressed, noxious mindset, that's tamas. And tamasic foods would be like leftover, stale, old, rotten foods. Rajasic foods would be like fermented, spicy, hot foods. And then sattvic foods are more naturally occurring foods that are seasonal, that aren't too oily, that are just right. It's like the Three Little Bears. That makes sense to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but my question is, why do we talk about the gunas when we're talking about the 3 levels of samadhi? Like yesterday.
Well, I think there's a first stage because all these words and all these concepts needs to have at least a context that we can build upon. And I feel like who is doing tomorrow? I feel like tomorrow should be another conversation about the 4 samadhis.
Wait, Adriana, it tells us in the sutra, he brings us these 3 gunas, and Amanda, of course, and whoever can chime in, I'm no expert. But he gives us these 3 gunas to have something to practice with. It makes it a concrete, it gives us something like to attach to concrete objects so that we're not just trying. I did a Dharma talk on this and I said, try to imagine a doodle woodle. Like
a what?
Right? Like imagine what a doodle woodle looks like.
What's a doodle woodle?
Exactly, you can't. But like Amanda immediately asked. Most people are like, I'm gonna create it in my head. And it's like, you can't practice something you don't know what it is.
Oh, I thought it was like some weird dog combination that
no, and I did it in class. And I was like, someone's going to be like, no, it exists. It exists in Africa or something. But like, the point is like, we can't just practice something we don't know. So he gives us these 3 gunas to practice on, like what Amanda's talking about, the matter, the songs and the food. And so I think as we go on, we'll be able to keep practicing these and it'll get harder. Like it's building in stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like when you get to a stage or an experience of samadhi, you're actually in meditation, which means you're in full absorption with the object that you're meditating upon, which means that the meditator and the object become one, if that makes any sense. So the person doing the meditating and the object become one, which means you gain all knowledge of the object. You're able to transcend the object because it's material and you are not. And it's a feeling of like, it's like you're holding it like this and you become aware of it and you look at it and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not this. And then you like let go of your attachment to it, and you like transcend it and move on to the, you have to like understand something, at least in the Jnana tradition that I practice, like you have to understand something fully before you can realize it's separate from you, and then you move past it. So like that idea we were talking about, moving back up the chart, it's like we're way down at the bottom, stuck in the elements, thinking that we are only the elements. And like I can say this and it can sound really out there, but when you actually get into it in the meditation practice and you feel this, it's like if nobody taught you the levels of existence of material, you're not gonna really, like what Pam's saying, understand what's happening when you're experiencing samadhi and meditation practice. So they're like, we did this. We went through this process. Here's what it feels like. Here's what's gonna happen. Don't believe us. Just do it. And then you'll also see this is what it feels like. So that's how it is in relation to the different samadhis. I remember the first time I read the manual, I was like, what the, like you guys like relate to that when you first read the Yoga Sutras, you're like, this is crazy business. This can't be
So
real.
I think Adriana, what it is that in this particular sutra is so complex because it talks about Prakriti and Purusha, and then talks about the three gunas, and then goes on to talk about 4 stages of samadhi. So it's like, what? Stop. So yesterday we talked a little bit about, this two, the duality of pure consciousness and the embodiment. And then today we're talking about the gunas. So maybe who's doing tomorrow?
Amanda.
Oh, yeah, I could do
perfect.
we can do that tomorrow, samadhis, yeah.
Because then there is a little bit of groundwork.
We might have to go one at a time too.
I know, exactly. That's what I think you should.
Yeah.
I think it's important though to pause and not rush through it, because like
absolutely,
the first time you're reading it, and we were talking about this before you got on the call, Amanda, like I was like, no one's going to join tomorrow because like what are these words?
I'll try to make them palatable.
No,
I
I mean, but like slowing it down, I find it helpful.
It's great.
Maybe no one else, but and it's fun.
Good.
It's fun conversation. Because like Renata says, like I mark up my book when I read it, but then I read it again and I'm like, no, this doesn't speak to me anymore. This speaks to me. Like different stages of your life every day, every year, every 5 years changes. And so having a conversation tomorrow on it will be different than the one I had in my teacher training. And then, it'll be different than next year.
For sure.
Adriana, I think too, the gunas, it's kind of, it's an important part of the foundation to be aware of these different things that are in everything and in us and in our mind, and how what I read earlier, how if you're in whatever space in your head, then you're going to view everything like that. And being aware of that, then if you're not aware of it, you can't pull back and kind of try to change or shift the mindset or practice, like Amanda said, like you realize, you acknowledge what's coming up and what you're doing, and like, my vehicle is like too much of this right now. What can I change to help kind of shift and find balance? It's 8:08 already. Does anyone else want to add anything?
No, I want to meditate.
To be continued tomorrow.
Here.
All right, so I'll unmute everyone. We'll get ready for some breath work. So sitting up, wherever you're gonna sit, or laying down if that's what you need to do this morning, just find a comfortable space. Closing your eyes. We'll take a deep, deep inhale through the nostrils. Feel the navel area, the rib cage, the chest fully expanding. And then exhaling, chest drops, rib cage drops, navel squeezes in and up towards the spine. Inhaling deeply. Exhaling deeply. Deep, deep inhale. Deep, deep exhale. Taking a moment as you keep this breath flowing to acknowledge any tightness, maybe around the lower back or the hips, maybe the shoulders, the back of the neck, and just breathe into that for 5 full rounds of breath. Visualize every inhale, just creating softness and space in the body. Every exhale, a soft release. Inhaling deeply. Exhaling deeply. Inhale. Exhale. One more full round of breath. Keeping the eyes gently closed, we'll take a few rounds of alternate nose breathing. So bringing the right thumb to the right nostril, inhaling, closing the right nostril, inhaling deeply through the left. Bringing the right ring finger towards the left nostril, close both. Exhaling through the right. Inhaling right. Close and hold. Exhaling left. We'll take 2 more full rounds just like that, making sure to finish off with the exhale through the left nostril. Then when ready with that 3rd round, allowing the right hand to release. Maybe it's hands down on the knees or the upper legs, maybe palms open. Allowing yourself to start dropping in. Start deepening the breath. Gently bring the hands to the heart center. Namaste.
Namaste. See you tomorrow.
Have a wonderful Wednesday.
Namaste. Thanks, you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Guys,
Thank you.
so did some people click the link and it brought them into the meeting?
Amanda, I just did. I signed up with my personal account and it worked for me.
Okay, I don't know what happened. All right, so hopefully class goes well.
And I tried
Adriana, just let me know. I'll
Adriana's
be standing
class
by.
too.
Okay, happy birthday to Catherine.
Thank you.
Oh, happy birthday, Catherine.
12, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Give
good
me a
luck.
second. Have a good day, everyone. I'm going to
You
end the
too.
meeting.
Okay,
You too.
bye.
Bye-bye.